What's up, guys? This is Muddvain. I've had a hard time deciding on whether or not I really wanted to do a how-to build type video. I feel like everybody just copies people on YouTube, and there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it creates a lot of the same builds, and I really like to see the diversity in builds across the whole game, and there's a lot of different ways to build builds. You can, blend 3 and 3, you can do 4 and 2, you can do 2, 2 and 2. You can do all kinds of crazy things with these build pieces and the bonuses that they've given us. There's a lot of different choices in that, along with your weapon selection and all that stuff. Really makes a difference. But I've had a few requests to show my Tactician's hybrid build. Now there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that have done similar builds, or maybe something almost identical to this but a little bit different in one way or another. I have basically the FAMAS and the AUG. Those are my two preferred weapons. Actually, I like my lightweight, but for sake of doing it the same as the video that I showed, I put the FAMAS in place. Sometimes I'm running, let's see, this one. It's got Adapt, Talented, and Competent, which are my 3 favorite talents for a skill build. And they do about the same damage, even though the DPS shows only to be like 260, I think, on the M4. They're very close in actual damage output on agents and NPCs. And this is a very versatile build. I have ran Legendary solo with this build, and if I ever get the chance to make a video of it, I will. It's just, it definitely takes a long time, and those videos can stem over an hour if you're not careful. But anyways, moving on. I advise anybody that's in a group at least, to run Vigorous. If you're running solo, you may want to run a Barrett's Bulletproof Vest. I only use that for my high skill power build, especially if I'm running the rollies, if I'm running mines. But my tactical Vigorous vest here, I always roll it for electronics. Obviously, I would love for that stat to be 1272, 1271, but I had to roll health here. Also, I always put skill haste on my chest pieces. I'm going to emphasize skill haste on everything. You saw on my last video that I had 50% skill haste. I am actually only running 45 now, and mainly because I needed the extra damage on the gloves. And I'll show you my gloves here in a minute. Ammo capacity is nice, not necessary in most cases, but it is nice to have, especially in the dark zone. The mask, the Tactician's mask that I'm running, it's pretty close to max, I think. It's, let's see. Yeah, it's 1271 without the mod, so it's 1.08. I'd like the skill power to be closer to the 10 mark, but the burn resistance is nice. If, obviously if you're using that. Okay. And then the knee pads, these are pretty good rolls. I got lucky on these for the most part. 1270 is nice. I got to roll that instead of the health. It already has health. Now I have some that have skill power, and if I'm going for my rollies build, it's worth it. If I'm not going for a high damage skill build, then it's not necessary, in my opinion. I also run burn resistance. I'd like to have shock resistance instead of disrupt, and I like to have the damage to elites, since my DPS usually is suffering a little bit, especially if I go full on electronics build and really become a healer rather than a hybrid build. I like to have damage to elites because it helps me put down an elite or any of the NPCs quicker. Just like enemy armor damage does help against PvE. Even though it's not doing anything for me necessarily in PvP, it really helps me to boost my stats with Talented and stuff like that, to be able to mow an NPC down quicker. it really gives me that advantage. Obviously, you want your armors to be as close as you can get to max. Some of mine are okay, and then others aren't too great. The holster, these stats are okay. I've seen some other videos with other people having way better stats across the board, but they work for my build. And of course, everybody knows in Last Stand they make everything the same anyway. So I run skill haste here. A lot of people are probably running, reload speed or health. A lot of people tell you health is good, but it's only like 7,800. And I don't know about you, but I average 13 to 15k per bullet on an agent. So 7,200 does nothing for me. But getting my skills back an extra 4 seconds or 3 seconds quicker, which is approximately what 7% will give you, is way more important to me. But you guys can feel free to run whatever you want. And of course, I'm running all self-heal mods in this scenario. Now, if I'm a healer, I change a couple of those out for the med box. And then my gloves, onto my gloves. This is actually a glove I had like in 1.4, I think, or something like that. Okay. It's got a really good roll because I was able to roll it. I got lucky as hell on this critical damage, chance, and assault rifle damage. And I do use an assault rifle a lot, but I have moved into my AUG. I really love my AUG, especially for PvP. Now, it's not set up that way right now. I actually have that one set up more for PvE because it's got skilled and some other things on it that aren't really good for DPS against another agent. But they do good enough damage that I heal good enough, and with my booster shot I'm actually not too bad. I prefer Savage. If you wanted to run Tenacious or the short bow knee pads, you could easily switch this up a little bit. It's not a big deal. The key thing is to get the 3-piece bonus on these. The skill power bonus really helps. Now, I know it's only 10%, but if you already got a lot of skill power, if you're around 2,000, it's going to be pretty good when you get an extra 10% of that. Skill haste is really hard to get. If you don't have this piece, you can't max it, from my experience. You get 15 from all your mods if you put all your mods with skill haste on there, and then you can get 8 on your gloves, I think, 8 on your chest, or 9 on your chest, I think, and then 7 or 8 on your holster. So you can't get quite to 50 if you don't have Tactician's 2-piece. So you could always run that with a 2-piece and a 4-piece or whatever if you wanted to drop the Vigorous. To me, Vigorous is very important, though, so that's a major part of that. Being able to ride a 304k toughness is the Vigorous. And on my healer build, I even go lower than that. I can shoot somewhere down around 270 to 280 toughness. But with the med box, healing for 11, 12,000 per second, and then my heals coming back every 15 seconds or 18 seconds, whichever it is, it's usually fast enough between my heals and teammates' heals, especially if you're working good as a team. So I never lose my overheal, and that's the key here in this build. And same thing for all your friends and your buddies in the group. Your squad should all have Vigorous. That way you can keep everybody up that extra 100k or so. I've heard it estimated. I'm not sure about that stat myself, but I've heard it estimated that when you have a full bar of overheal, it's estimated somewhere around 100,000 health. So take that for what it is. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I've heard. For my backpack, I love to run Inventive, but unfortunately, let's see, my Inventive is rolled for electronics, and you can see what that would do to my stats. It drops my damage quite a bit. And if we're trying to show you what I was running the other night, I'm trying to leave it as close to that as it was. I got a pretty good armor roll here. I think the max is like 1360 maybe, or 1350, something like that. I run health on here. This is another location that you could always, if you needed more skill power because you didn't have the right mods or something like that, you could always run skill power, and you could also run burn resistance instead. That works really well. But I like the specialized backpacks. If I'm over 5,000 firearms, it doesn't bother me to run specialized. It gives me enough. It's not as much as Inventive, and as much as I'm overhealed, not Inventive is nice. And if I ever get a firearms rolled Inventive, if I actually remember to even think about it or farm for it, I will replace this probably with an inventive bag. And simply because I am overhealed almost all the time, I can wait a second or two to pop my heal and then pop my med bag or pop my rollies or whatever I'm using that I need the extra skill power for. I believe that's it. Just a real quick run through my mods. I'm using two very low. Well, one of them's very low now. Stamina, I've actually rolled like 70 of these things, and getting them with skill haste at 3% with a high roll in the 260 mark is apparently very difficult for me. But I'm going to keep rolling and trying to get that 260 and up. Stamina, I run 2 staminas just to keep me above the 300k mark. I like to be, that's my safe zone personally. A lot of other people don't care. And electronics, 265 with skill haste. As you can see, all of those have skill haste on them. 1 firearms, I'm not sure. I think I just did that for a little extra damage, and I didn't need the stats and anything else. You could easily switch that firearms out to skill power or stamina if you preferred. Electronics mod here is the 265. Yeah, by the way, I think I bought those in one of the, I think it's a home base ops up front. So it'll be there probably till Friday, I think it resets. So check that out if you haven't gotten them yet. It's actually a pretty damn good roll. Anyways, nice to have 45% skill haste. That's the most important stat right there. If you guys are running hybrids, getting your skills back is the ultimate goal. You got to be able to get them back 2 times in a fight. You want to be in a fight for 20 seconds. Skill haste is awesome. You pop your booster shot before you go into the fight. By the time he's mowed you down a little bit, move around a little bit, an extra second or two, you get yours back, and you can fully reheal, if not overheal yourself all the way. If you're running 244 skill power, you are pretty close to healing yourself from the ground up. Now, I had this set up the other day for rollies. We were doing some missions. I run booster, and then I also run the recon, just because it's 27.5 critical chance and damage, which is really, really nice. If I go over here to this one, it drops it by 5. If I go to here, it drops this, the crit chance lower. And I'm really trying to keep it as close to the max of 60%, I believe that's what it is, as I can. The booster shot, as you can see, comes back in 21 seconds. My tactical link, or whatever, the recon pack, comes back in 15.7 seconds, which is really nice. So I'm pretty much, my recon is back, my pulse is back before it's even done. I mean, it's still up when I get it back. So as soon as it comes down, I just pop it again, and I pop it constantly. I just keep it popped constantly. Same thing with the booster. Like I said, I always try to booster before I go into a fight. And I don't know how many of you, now see, I'm still set up for rollies. I'm not sure how many of you guys run triage, but I do a lot. This is how I usually run my setup. I love triage. Triage works with all the heals now, all the first aids, from my knowledge, especially booster shot and defib. Obviously, my things change a little bit if I was running a full-on healer build, but I like these. Combat medic is an absolute must in a group. Triage, an absolute must in a group. You can do whatever you want with these extras. You can, do the death by proxy. You can do strike back. You can do critical save. If you're running a fire turret, you may want to do wildfire. If you got a team that's already got another guy with a hybrid build or even a higher, better electronics build, and they're running pulse, you could switch to wildfire or anything that you want. I mean, I'm not super definitive on what you have to run. In my opinion, I don't think it really matters. Critical save is nice, but I don't feel like that 20% does enough for me. I'd rather have my strike back. That way when I start moving around and trying to dodge bullets and I've got 10 seconds left on my recovery of my skills, that 20% cut down, it, you know, could cut that down to 5 or 6 seconds instead of 10. So, you know, I don't know that this thing works that effective. I haven't actually done the time work or anything like Marco Styles likes to do, but from my experience, it seems like it always comes back in time. Like I said, you could always run critical save instead, or whatever you prefer. It's not really imperative any one thing. I used to love one is none, but my gun's still here 1.6, and we're still jamming. You know, especially if you reload like I do a lot in between emptying a clip. If you empty your clip every time, I believe it doesn't lock up because there's no bullets in the chamber to lock up. But for some reason, I feel like it jams a lot when I use it, because I'll kill one NPC and it'll use 20 bullets. Well, I don't want to run into the next guy and not have a full clip, so I go ahead and reload, and that's when I notice it the most. It really tends to lock up on one is none. So that's my talents and skills. Wow, gotta love the Xbox. Give or take 340k DPS with my FAMAS, 304 toughness, and 244 skill power. That's, I think, almost identical to the stats that I was showing. I don't like to pop a booster shot and show you what my booster shot DPS and toughness is, or pop critical save or anything like that. I want you to see raw numbers, because raw numbers are more important, and they're not even all that accurate. Like I've stated before to my friends and buddies that run with me, and even opponents, the FAMAS stats are fake. It is really boosted, and especially if you have brutal or accuracy or something to that effect on there, even adapt really boosts any vicious, any of those stats that give you crit chance or crit damage, especially headshot damage. They all boost your stat. And unfortunately, my hit, like I said earlier, with this bullfrog with 340 is almost identical to this one right here that has competent and adapt on it as well. So, I mean, I'm not far off. Now, granted, if I had a competent on here instead of brutal, this gun would definitely probably do a good 10 to 15% higher damage. But right now, they do almost the exact same against NPCs and agents. I'm right around 13 to 15 on agents, and I'm right at like 80 to 100 on NPCs. So take that for what it's worth, guys. Like I said, I like the bullfrog. It's really fun. It's a good hip fire weapon, and those of you that are not hip firing, I wish you well, because if you are not hip firing, you will go down. There's guys that have gotten better at it. I don't know if I'm running anything with accuracy. I usually run accuracy on there, and I'm not. I'm actually running stability on my underbarrel. I would prefer that to be accuracy, and the reason being is because when you do hip fire, it does help. Let's see here, my AUG. My AUG shoots accuracy a little bit better too. And that one has 2% accuracy, not really doing much anyways. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this isn't too long. I hope y'all kind of grasp what I'm doing. All the pieces obviously are interchangeable in my opinion, except for if you want the extra skill power boost, specialized is a must. If you want the extra health from your vigorous is a must. But anyways, you guys, thanks for watching and enjoy.